Hi everybody, we're out here at Bray again today for our very last session for our fall series. We've been talking about trees. We're not outside like we've been all fall because it's really cold out there. So we're in the nice cozy warm house where we're going to talk about the last tree I wanted to talk to you about, and that was evergreen tree. And we're going to zero in on one particular kind of evergreen, and that's a pine tree. So what is an evergreen tree? What is a pine tree? An evergreen tree is called a coniferous tree. That's the fancy name for it. Or we call it an evergreen tree, and that's what most of us always call it. When we first got together, we talked about how trees make food. And I had a poster, or a little poster, that we talked about, and I have it with me today again, where the sun plays a very important part in trees making food for themselves. So the leaves take the warmth of the sun and the carbon dioxide that they get from the air all around them, and they mix it up and make sugar. And that's called photosynthesis, because in each of these leaves is some chlorophyll. Well, okay, when you think about an evergreen tree, you think about needles, don't you? And here I have part of an evergreen tree that I took off of a tree last night. If you'll look, it has lots and lots of needles. These needles are its leaves. The leaves of a coniferous tree, the leaves of an evergreen tree, are really needles. They can come in different sizes, but this is the one we have today. The difference between the trees we've been looking at that drop their leaves every single fall in many, many colors, and what we're looking at today is that toward fall, as fall begins, remember those trees stop making the food and they drop their leaves. These trees don't. They stay green all year. Their chlorophyll, their photosynthesis using the sun keeps them green and warm all year and feeds them the way it helps them grow. Okay, today we're going to zero in on one evergreen tree. There's lots of kinds of evergreen trees, but we're going to look at a pine. And we're going to look at the shortleaf pine. Shortleaf pine is the only native pine tree that we have in Missouri. That doesn't mean we don't have other pines in Missouri, because we do. You'll find white pines and other things too. But this is the one that's been here as long as anybody can remember. So what is a native tree? A native tree, the best way I can explain it is a native tree is a tree that has been here as long as anybody, anywhere can ever remember, almost forever. It is uniquely set to live in our environment, in our ecosystem, in our dirt, in our air. It gets everything it needs right here in the state of Missouri. So it's been here as long as any of us will ever be here. The one we're going to talk about today, like I said, is the shortleaf pine. It is the only native one in Missouri, and I just so happen to have one across the street. This is what it looks like. It can get very tall. It gets very tall, and it has cones, coniferous, and these are what the cones look like. This I took off the tree last night. We're going to look at these cones a little closer after a while. But if you look at this tree, for you to be able to identify it when you're out in the woods or you're out walking or down your street, because this is literally right across a fairly busy street in town here. One of the ways you can identify it is by its bark. And its bark, we kind of say the bark has plates. It has like rectangular plates. And I went over there and took a picture so I could show you, and then I'm going to show you something else I did. So the shortleaf pine has these plates, and they are sometimes bigger than this one looks. If the tree gets really big, the plates can get really big too. Remember in the beginning when we started our book, I went out there and I added to my book, and the last one here. I put a shortleaf pine in, and you can kind of tell that this is a plate. I tried to make it so that you could see the plates. Here's a small plate. Here's a rather large one. I wrote this on the side so that you could actually see. And then I wrote that it's in an empty lot on Salem Avenue, which is where I live. Now, how else can you identify a pine? In addition to the plates on the bark, it has its leaves, or as we said, its needles. And the needles are at the ends of sheaths. And the needles come in groups of 2. Now, sometimes they can be in groups of 3, but for the most part, they're in groups of 2. So while it looks like there's a ton of needles all grouped together, if you look really closely, you'll be able to separate them and see the different sheaths with 2 or sometimes 3 needles coming out of each sheath. They get to be 3 to 5 inches long, which I remember the first time I ever saw a shortleaf pine thinking, how can that be shortleaf? That looks like a pretty long needle to me. And it does. If you look in the tree, those look like long needles, don't they? But it's called a shortleaf pine, and the needles are about 3 to 5 inches long. How do you think we get baby shortleaf pine trees, or any kind of pine tree? One of the things that you know is that pine trees have pine cones, right? So you can go out and you collect pine cones. They can lay all over the forest floor. They can lay all over that lot that I walked through yesterday. And the pine cones kind of look like this. Some of them are bigger, not many of them are any smaller than this one. This is a really small one. But they can get pretty big, and it depends on what kind of a pine tree you're looking at. They can be really big. Inside, this is really kind of the seed home for what will be a new shortleaf pine tree. Because at the end of each of these little pointers, these little points, which are very sharp on the edges, is a seed. And this cone protects that seed. Okay, so it rained yesterday. How did this cone, or any cone, how would it protect that seed? Because these seeds have to stay dry and they have to stay warm. Otherwise, when they land on the ground, they won't work. Here's how that happens. I took some pictures. You can do this experiment at home. It's not hard. It doesn't take long. I went out and I took down a branch with a pine cone on it. And there it is. You can see that the pine cone itself is totally open. You can see into there, but way, way, way down in there is where the little tiny seed is that you can't see from the outside. Then I took a glass of water. It doesn't matter. It can be lukewarm water, it can be warm water, it can be cold water, because eventually while it sits there, it's going to get to be cold water. And you can put that pine cone, I took that pine cone off, and I put it in the water. So we're going to try to keep all this up here, but see what we're doing. So here is the pine cone in the water. Just leave it alone. You can go and do something else. You can go read a book. You can talk to mom and dad about what you're doing. You can write down, draw a picture of what you're doing. But you're going to have to let it sit there for about 10 or 20 minutes. Now, I will tell you that if you go get a fresh pine cone off a tree, it's not going to take long for this magic to happen. But if you get an old pine cone that's laying around your house for a while, because I did that too, it's going to take a while, like maybe an hour. So the fresher the pine cone, the faster this magic works, okay? So let that sit probably 10 to 20 minutes. After 10 to 20 minutes, that pine cone is going to close. Do you see the difference between that pine cone and this pine cone? This pine cone has totally closed up. Why? Because what we said, it has to keep the seeds way down inside dry and warm. After it stopped raining, I went back outside to check the pine cones on the tree, and it happened on the tree too. They closed up, and when I went back out after it stopped raining, the magic happened again. This is one that I did a couple of days ago. This isn't the one I did last night. I don't think I brought that one. This is the one I did a couple days ago. If you look carefully, it has to be totally dry and totally warm before it starts opening up. But you can see at the bottom of this one that it is starting to open up again, because as soon as it gets dry and warm, it will open up again. So like I said, you can do this experiment at home. It's really simple. Get a glass of water, drop in a pine cone, let it sit 10 to 20 minutes, and it closes up. And then when it dries out and gets warm again, it opens up. Okay, that's part of the story. But how come there's pine trees everywhere then? Why aren't all the pine trees right by the pine tree? Because these are, if you've ever picked up a pine cone, and I know you have, they're very light. You know why they're so light? They're light because they have to be blown in all different directions. And these little things here serve kind of as wings to get them there. Because think about it, if all the pine cones on a tree fell in one place, there wouldn't be any sunshine down there under all those pine trees for that to grow. And so it's not a very good place for a new pine tree to start life, right underneath its mom, its dad, its tree. So the wind picks it up and blows it. And when it lands and these little things come off, that's when the seed plants itself. And you can actually go in there and get those seeds out and plant them in your house. There's tons of ways on the internet to do that. Some say you should freeze it for a while. Some say you don't have to do that. But you can look that up if you'd like to and plant your own little pine tree. But because they're light, and because they blow, and because they land different places than they were fallen, they will grow into new pine trees. So that's the story of our only native pine tree in Missouri. And that's the last tree we're going to look at in this series. But I am going to I'm going to read you a story, kind of a winter story, kind of a fun story as we end this series. The snow's just around the corner. We did have snow flurries in Raleigh just the other day. So I'm going to read you a fun little story about what else you might find in a forest that has not only shortleaf pines, but light pines, and lots of the other trees we've already talked about this fall. See you in a minute. We're going to read a book, just a fun book about the forest, about the woods, about the trees in our neighborhood. This is called Stranger in the Woods, and it's a wonderful winter book. It's by Carl P. Sams II and Jean Stoick. So here we go. And there you see a wonderful winter picture. The snowflakes were resting after their twisting, twirling dance through the crisp night air. Every twig in the forest wore a new coat of glimmering white. Daybreak came, softly moving through the woods and yawning as its rays slowly stretched across the snowy meadows. And you can see all the snow in the trees, and you can see the deer family. The birds were the first to notice. Stranger in the woods, take care, the blue jays cawed a warning from high in the tops of the tall oaks. Stranger in the woods, do you hear the jays calling? Mother Doe spoke softly to her fawn. Yes, he whispered, I always listen to the birds, the wind blowing through the trees, the rustling of the leaves, and all the sounds of the woods. I hope that when you go out to the woods, you listen to all the sounds of the woods too. But there you see the deer talking about what they hear, what they see. Stranger in the woods, who's in the woods? Where did the jays say? Where is he? Asked the owl of many questions. Coo, could that be him? Asked the mourning dove. There, beyond the old apple tree? Follow the snow trail past the pond to where the meadow begins. Not far at all. Who's in the woods? Why is he here? When did the stranger come? Asked the owl of many questions. I've been here since early morning before the first pale light on the eastern sky, said the munching muskrat. No stranger came this way. No one passed by my pond. followed the snow trail under the light of the winter moon, answered the buck. He was not there during the night, that I am sure. There's the buck. There's his antlers. As the animals moved through the snowy forest, they came to the edge of the meadow. The frightened doe stomped her hoof and snorted. Where is he? Where is he? Can you see him? Yes, I do see him, chattered the squirrel. Someone needs to go and check him out. Kind of sounds like a squirrel, doesn't it? Woo, we'll go. Woo, we'll go see. Asked the owl of many questions. Now don't be looking at me. I'm much too busy chewing on my antler, sputtered the porcupine. You'll not be volunteering me, no siree, said the scared rabbit. Is he watching me? Howdy-dee-dee, it is me, the Chickadee. I will go. I'll take the lead. I'm the smallest and I can scamper quickly. I'll do it. I'll make a tunnel under the snow where only I can go, creeping in closer to get a look quietly, just like a mouse. Let it be me, volunteered the fawn. I can do it. I know I can. I am the strongest and the biggest, said the young buck. I should go first. I can fly faster, chirped the cardinal. I can run like lightning, and I have antlers, boasted the buck. But I am red, announced the cardinal, not knowing what else he could say. And so what happened? Both buck, the young buck, and the cardinal both went together. And what did they find? They found a beautiful, wonderful snowman. What are you waiting for? I'm there already, Dee-Dee, exclaimed the Chickadee, and there he is, sitting on top of the carrot nose. Gee, said the Chickadee, there are nuts and seeds on this hat for you and me. The stranger is friendly. Come see, there's plenty. I can see there's something for you, said the buck. Could it be there's something for me? My nose is leading me to corn buried beneath the snow. You see the seeds in the hat? And here's everybody by the snowman. There's the Chickadee on top and the deer in front. I found a treat that I can eat, said the young doe as she reached out to the stranger. Look at, just nipping right off that carrot. Wow, a carrot. Do I have to share it? What is this? Questioned the fawn as he passed a curious object in the snow. Could it be there's more than one stranger in the woods? See what he sees here? What is that? Looks like a mitten, right? So who else might be in the woods? After the corn was gone, the animals left by the snow trail one by one and disappeared into the winter woods. It was the Chickadee who took the last seed and flew away. The snowman stood alone, but only for a short time. Look at him. He's lost his nose. He's lost his eyes. He's lost the corn at the bottom. He's just snow, hats, and sticks. They have eaten everything, even the carrot nose, whispered the little sister, peeking out from behind the evergreens. Let's put some more seeds in corn before they come back, encouraged the brother. The animals will never know we were here. Did they know they were there? They knew somebody was there, but they didn't know who, did they? How long will we feed them? She asked. For a long time, he replied. After the snow has gone and the snowman has melted away until the frogs start to sing and the trees grow new leaves, I think they like the carrots the best. The end. I hope you enjoyed that story, and I hope you have enjoyed our time together this fall. We're going to take a winter break, but I'll be sending things online for you to look at and do, and we'll be back here out at Bray in March second Tuesday in March like we used to do. We don't know yet if we'll be together here or if we'll be online again, but if we all do the right thing and all listen to our moms and dads and the people in charge and do what we're told, maybe we can see each other again soon. Have a great month, have a great end of the year, and see you in March. Bye-bye.